Welcome to PhilippiNEWS. Today, in the Philippines, hundreds of homes are destroyed by the Filipino government, leaving many with a long, treacherous journey ahead.
Impoverished Rohingya refugees seek safety in the Philippines. Why they are being persecuted is coming up next.
Oil reserves in the sea? You heard me right. But whose property is it? According to China, it's theirs.
The U.S. is legalizing gay marriage. Should we do it too? More details to come. I'm Kai Johnson.
And I'm Kendall Phillips.
And this is PhilippiNEWS. Our first article today involves the Philippines and the South China Sea dispute. The Philippines is in the center of a long-standing territorial dispute in the South China Sea between China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and other oceanic countries. The conflict has primarily been revolved around control of the Spratly and Paracel Islands, which are presumed to be rich in mineral resources. Many of the smaller parties argue that China's claims to the islands overlap their exclusive economic zones, granted to them by the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea. China first exercised control over the islands in the 3rd century. However, the modern-day conflict began in the mid-20th century. Historically, these interactions have the possibility to become violent, and between 1974 and 1988, the Chinese killed more than 130 Vietnamese troops and sailors. Now, with the collaboration of the US and Philippine militaries in an effort to halt Chinese military development on the islands, conflicts in the South China Sea could become even bloodier.
Our next story is about urbanization in the capital of the Philippines. A suburb of Manila is experiencing demolition of their squatter settlements as populations increase due to urbanization. Squatter settlements in Caloocan City are frequent, as most rural farmers are unable to afford housing in dense urban areas. Although the government offered to relocate the settlement, the vast majority of the residents resisted relocation, as they would have less space and no means of transportation. As a result, more than 500 families were displaced from the settlement. As squatter settlements are pushed out of the way, middle and working class housing sectors may begin to expand as the development increases. Anak Pawis, a political party known for supporting workers' and citizens' rights, is assisting their squatter families as they search for new homes.
Our next story on PhilippiNEWS involves the Philippines granting asylum to Rohingya refugees. The Philippine government is in talks of allowing more Rohingya refugees from Myanmar and Bangladesh into the country after more than 8,000 refugees came to the Philippines by boat. According to the articles from Al Jazeera, The Guardian, and CNN, the Rohingya people face extreme persecution from Myanmar, which refuse to recognize them as citizens and force them to live in extremely impoverished ghettos. The Rohingya migration can be applied to certain migration laws created by E.G. Ravenstein. For example, this law, political and environmental factors can induce migration, applies to the situation because migration is influenced by the political actions of Myanmar against the Rohingya. The migration can also be referred to as international forced migration, because the Rohingya people are forced to leave Myanmar due to unsafe conditions regarding ethnic persecution.
Our last article involves same-sex marriage in the Philippines. The Philippines has been becoming more positive towards gay rights in recent years. In 2009, the Philippines legalized LGBT citizens to work in the military and are now permitted to run for political positions in the Filipino government. Within the last month, the Supreme Court has been called upon by the Filipino lawyer to legalize same-sex marriage, calling the current marriage ban unconstitutional. Although the Philippines is a predominantly Roman Catholic state, positive attitudes towards gay rights have increased in recent years. This could be attributed to the influence of Western culture, which is increasingly accepting of gay marriage. As globalization increases its influence on the periphery, peripheral countries such as the Philippines can expect to see continuous support of LGBT rights. Thank you for joining us this morning.
We'll see you tomorrow.
I'm Kendall Phillips.
And I'm Kai Johnson.
And this is PhilippiNEWS.